Welcome, Off-Worlders, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast with Dylan and Akram, where we discuss the latest entertainment happening in pop culture. We've got another great review for you guys this week. Akram and I just watched Dune over the weekend, directed by Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothy Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, and Rebecca Ferguson, and of course my future wife Zendaya. She don't know yet, but she will. Great sci-fi classic. Some people put on the same level as Star Wars or Alien. So far the movie's racked up $33 million at the box office and has been received really well internationally. I will admit I haven't read the book. It's a bit daunting, but from what critics and friends have told me, it's pretty loyal to the source material. But as far as cinematics are concerned, they really went all out with visual storytelling. It feels like I was watching like an episode of like Mandalorian or something. That's just how good it was. But Akram, I know you have some thoughts. Tell us what you thought of Dune.
Yeah, the visuals it's for sure a showcase of visuals. I mean, Dene does such an excellent job of making these bombastic, almost art house films. It's like an amalgamation, right? It's any director's dream to make a film like any films that he does, like Enemy or Arrival. So he definitely has it down pat. I mean, everyone's like overdoing themselves. Hans Zimmer, the musical score, the art direction here, like the art department did such an amazing job. Feels like such a huge movie, and I'm surely excited to see part two, and I hope we see more, right? Maybe this could be a new blockbuster franchise that'll be near and dear to a lot of people's hearts for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. They really went all out with this film. Have you read the book or seen like the original movie from like 1984?
Yeah, so I haven't read the book. In Comixology, if you guys are a fan of Comixology, they do have like an anthology of Dune. So I think I'm gonna check that out now. After this, I'm pretty sure the sales will go up because it's pretty lore extensive, right? So everybody wants to get in a little bit of that lore, right? To know what's gonna happen next. The movie I never watched too. I just don't want to cringe, but I from what I hear that there's no comparison, right? This Dune is by far the definite version of a film that's taking the lore from Dune, right? So, yeah. What else? Like, what's your thoughts on just the visuals? Because I know from coming from a graphic background, what do you think about the visuals?
I love the visuals, like the cinematics in this movie. Well, let me just say, like, I feel like this is one of like those movies where it's like, I feel like it's better if you watch the movie before you read the book. You know, a lot of times like people read the source material before they want to get into the movie, just, you know, cause they want to draw comparisons like, you know, like Harry Potter or something like that. But this movie, I feel like cause the book is like really extensive, from what I hear. So I feel like if you watch this movie, you'll get like you'll be able to envision a lot of the stuff that you're reading, and then you can focus more on the context. But yeah, I really enjoyed like the director's choices in this movie. It feels like I was watching like Hamlet or like Othello, especially because this is only part one, right? So it feels like an opening act. You could go even further and say feels like like other Shakespeare plays, like Romeo and Juliet, you know, with the Atreides and the Harkonnens being like the Capulets and the Montagues. But yeah, I really like the visuals. The costume design's really cool. The sets were amazing. I like the vehicle designs, like the ornithopter. Like I thought that was really cool. Yeah, the concept artist did like a really good job with this movie. Like just the world building aspect of it, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think this is a masterclass in like weaving narrative through dialogue and also visuals. Like the semiotics here is great. Like with the mouse, I just love that evolution that the mouse has, where it takes out some of the water droplets and puts in its mouth. That's such like a realistic thing, or it's like spitting and this like making some type of web. It reminds me a lot of like certain birds, right? It's
Hmm.
like the semiotics of like evolving too, which Timothy Chalamet's character Paul will eventually evolve, right? As we might have heard spoilers, because that happens in the Dune books. Amazing, 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 amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing part two. But I mean, I heard that they're probably having a little issue, right? Because it streamed directly to HBO Max. I myself watched it at HBO Max,
Me
and
too. I did too.
because of that, it's a weird thing, right? Because you kind of have to, as a director, you kind of have to lobby for part two, because if it doesn't make too much money in the box office, there will be no part two, right? So it's a
Mhm.
scary thing, and it's a very tough thing these days, right? So, but yeah, what do you think about some of the characters too? Like, I just love the Baron's character. So it's such a chilling, not chilling like, hey, what's up, man? Like
Well, he kind of
chilling,
was
right?
chilling, like
Character,
in that
yeah.
bathtub with the.
Well, basically, yeah.
You know, what he reminds me of. He reminds me of the steward from Lord of the Rings when he was eating those fucking tomatoes and shit, like in the castle. It was like a gross villain, but yeah, he was cool. Yeah, great ensemble cast. I mean, Timothy Chalamet, great performance as always. I always love his discography. Akram's a hater, unfortunately, because he only cares
How
about the
you doing,
industry.
Wendy?
But yeah, also great performances from Jason Momoa and Josh Brolin. Even though they were like supporting characters, I really thought they like I think they did a good job. Jason
Yeah, Jason is
Momoa,
everywhere.
yeah, he's in everything nowadays. It's so funny. And this I think this was so appropriate coming from like from Aquaman and Game of Thrones, obviously. So he gets to bring out like that warrior side of him, right? Oscar Isaacs and Rebecca, what's her name?
Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson. Yeah, really good characters as Leto and Jessica Atreides. Definitely bring the drama aspect to the story. Um, yeah, there's like a lot of like great like allegorical elements in this movie. Like just like like seeing like the occupation of like Arrakis. It definitely felt like it kind of relates to our times. If you think about it, like the spice, just like another word for like foreign oil or drugs, right? Um, vying for resources. I mean, that's a big thing in sci-fi movies. It always goes back to like fighting over resources. This movie felt like a lot like obviously like Star Wars, but it felt like Mad Max to me almost.
How do you think
Um,
it compares to Star Wars?
it's a good question. You mentioned lore. It definitely has like an extensive lore behind it. And they didn't really try to cram too much like in this movie compared to like the 1984 version. Um, But I mean, obviously there are different styles, right? I mean, that movie felt more like a biblical epic, rather than like a modern cinematic movie. But I really liked it. I think the pacing was really well done. They kind of like try to drop, exposition, in the storyline. But there's still like a singular like narrative, element going on. Um, I was able to follow it really well. How about you?
I I was on the fence of like following it because I came to this completely unaware of Dune, right? I mean I know about the movie and I've been wanting to catch up on the comics, but like I haven't seen like the second trailer or anything like there or any TV spots. I completely was just like zoning out of Doom. So like when I watched it, I mean it's one of those movies, right? I mean, Danae also crafts these type of films where you really have to pay attention close, right? I mean, I think that that's the magic behind his filmmaking is the visuals, but also everything's very art house and the storytelling too. Like Enemy, right? Enemy takes like two times just to watch. That's with Jake Gyllenhaal. If anybody is unaware of that film, it takes like two times to watch just to understand. Or Arrival, right? It's like something isn't really apparent at first. So like with the lore. In contrast to Dune, 1980 Dune, where it's mostly homodygetic narration, here it was like um, really well woven within the story. I can imagine that it's going to be really hard for normal or average moviegoers to understand, but I think for the most part, it did a
Mhm.
pretty good job. And my one gripe with the film, which isn't really a gripe anyway, is that it does feel like a part one, right? It just feels like you want to see more, but obviously it's a part one, and I appreciate that it is a part one. Some things deserve to be a part one, like sometimes like back then there was this little trend that I don't think anybody else tried, like Hunger Games, right? They tried
Or Twilight or
yeah, like
Part
that. It's
One,
like
yeah.
you don't really need it, I guess. But
Well,
like
especially
here,
for novel adaptations, like going
right.
back to like Harry Potter, like the last book that they split that up. Just because if you really want to keep it loyal to the source material, and they do, I think, from what I've heard, like they really keep it like close to the chest with this one. But sometimes you just can't get it all in a 2 hour movie, and then even like a 2 hour movie is kind of pushing it, to like the point where like you're trying to keep your eyes open. So I think a part one was appropriate, but I think even casual viewers who aren't into the books or the old movie, I think they'll be able to enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah, of
relatable
course.
themes, like like I mentioned, like occupation and imperialism. It's a lot of like religious like themes in this one, especially like drawing back to like Islam. Like you can see that with like the Fremen tribes, or even like I kind of like thought of like the Crusades, like the way like the Atreides, like they're all in their like suits of armor and they're kind of like fighting this indigenous tribe or race in this like desert area. So there's like a lot of like familiarities you can see in this movie.
Oh, for sure. Great point. Yeah. And I just think that again, I just want to go back to give credit to the cast. It's an all-star cast, right? And it's so funny to see some of the cast or some of the characters perish right early on. I'm
Hmm.
like, I was thrown aback. I was like, oh my God. Really? They did this? But I just can't wait to see what else. And we also have Polka Dot Man here. So shout out to
Oh
him. You
yeah,
guys should watch our Suicide Squad review
I was so random. As soon
sometime.
as I saw him, I was like, he's probably
It's
thinking of
funny.
like his mother, like the whole
Right. I mean, right, the
time.
Baron, I guess.
Yeah. Well, who is your
Yeah.
like favorite character in this movie?
Obviously, I would probably say Paul, but no, honestly, I think Josh Brolin's Gurney.
Oh,
Obviously, you
really?
have Duncan Idaho. Josh
Mm.
Brolin is just that cool guy. You know, you have like in a barbecue, have the Fast and Furious song playing in the background. He's talking about like construction work or something. He's just he's that guy that always
He's
has
walking
this
Paul Walker's daughter down the aisle.
right. We got to talk about that one day. Yeah, it's he has such a like a nice gravelly voice. He's just always so cool. So I always enjoy seeing him. Jason Momoa, I really do like Jason Momoa, but I hope he doesn't get to the point where he's like the same thing like Jason Statham. Like every movie, he's kind of like the same character.
Yeah, like an
Um,
action character or something, like a
right.
stereotype cast.
Yeah. So Oscar Isaac, phenomenal job here as well.
He was
I'm a
actually my
big fan.
favorite character in this whole movie,
Oh yeah. I just
just
love
because
this
like
the talk he had with his son earlier in
yeah,
the
I don't know,
graveyard.
like the trailer kind of like made it see because I didn't read the book, so I watched a little bit of the movie, but the trailer kind of made it seem like he was gonna be like the villain of this movie.
Oh,
So I thought that was cool that he still like was like the fatherly like figure, but he was still like responsible in a way.
I
Uh,
see. Okay, interesting.
Even his
Interesting.
sacrifice at the end, I thought that was pretty cool. Spoiler alert,
Right. but
but
but yeah, really interesting.
mm.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we could see more of Chani Zendaya, but
Yeah, not too much
obviously
of Zendaya, but
it's
yeah, I
part
think
one.
yeah they're probably gonna give her a bigger role in the sequels if they get greenlighted.
Was she
Even
in the original movie? Chani?
yeah, she was. Yeah, she's like an essential character.
I see.
Yeah, and Javier Bardem as
Yeah, actually, yes. I love
he was
Javier
fun to
Bardem.
watch. Yeah,
Big fan
everything
of
because
his.
he usually plays villains.
He plays them really well, right? And
Yeah.
here, he's so natural, right? I just love that
Mm.
spitting scene too. That was so funny, but it makes sense. It's just see like the whole like culture and stuff like that. It just blends so well.
Mm.
Feels really believable this world, even if it's so bombastic.
Mm. Yeah, even
Uh,
like the Ben and Jesuit, like the witch ladies. I don't know. There's just something like creepy or like off about them, like ominous. It's like that, like going back to like allegory stuff. Like they kind of make me think of like the Catholic Church, like working in the backgrounds and like trying to like spin their motives on people.
for sure.
Yeah, and then trying to like make Paul this Messiah, I guess. I think even like the word they use for him, like the lisan, yeah, I forgot what the word was, but I think that's also like that's Arabic. So
A lot of stuff sounds Arab. I don't know. I don't really know, but yeah, that's cool. It's really interesting. So like out of what would you rate the film
I would give it a solid 9 out of 10.
on like why just a 9?
Because you like you said, it is a part one, so I don't know, but it is again like they kind of have to give proper pacing. 9, I mean 10 for me has to be like a perfect movie. like something. I don't know, but the style wise, I really enjoyed this movie. I think anybody can watch it and really like have fun with it. If you're big on sci-fi, especially, I think you'll really appreciate this movie. It's a great adaptation to the book and the movie. How about you? How would you rate it?
Well, yeah, I agree. It's definitely a hardcore sci-fi film. And stunning. Everything's stunning. Like the throat singing scene and stuff like that. The whole thing is stunning. So I think I'm usually a person who's like a day after I see a film, I'm like still on the hype of it, so I have to like let it sit with me. But at the moment, I'm gonna be realistic with myself. I would give it a 9 too. I think that part one and part two movies are like or like split movies are kind of cursed to have like a 9 out of 10 if they're like really good, right? Just because you don't have the other half there. I think that that's always like kind of like a curse that lingers. So I think for the most part, that's why I would give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, it's kind of unfair to say, but I think that that's everything's setting up just for that, and we won't see the end until part two, right? So I think that's why I'll give it a 9 out of 10. But everything else, I think it hit all marks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I did kind of like the open-endedness of it at the end, just because they went through so much. So kind of like ending on a high note. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I totally agree. I think for a first part, they did really well. Like you said, I hope they don't follow the curse of the sequel being the less, I guess, in quality. But we'll just have to see.
For sure, yeah. Support your movie theaters if you want to see part two, I guess. I think that's the problem now, yeah.
Well, guys, that about wraps up our review of Dune. We thank you all for listening. You can check us out on multitude of media, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast from. We also post our live video episodes to YouTube and Instagram. Please support this channel by giving us a like, a share, a follow, anything that takes 2 seconds to do. We really appreciate it. But until then, guys, thank you for having lunch with us.
Thank you.